Hello everybody, Austin Falingo here with JamPlay.com. Welcome Jam Players, welcome to week number 4 of creating jazz melodies, this new live course. So this week we're gonna change directions a little bit. We're gonna kind of we're gonna use a couple of different chord grips that we haven't done yet, and we're also gonna get more into Latin territory. So we're gonna kind of switch up the beat, it's gonna be a lot less swing, more sexy, right? In a Bossa Nova style. So this tune this week is titled Blue Mamba, in the style of Blue Bossa, right? So first off, everybody should get to know the tune Blue Bossa. It's a classic standard. A lot of, I feel like it's one of the tunes that everybody kind of learns first in terms of playing some jazz stuff. And we're going to keep incorporating everything that we've been doing. But this week, in terms of creating our own jazz melodies, we're going to put emphasis on like a motif, so a musical idea. And what I'm going to do is I'm essentially going to use the same idea over and over again. But what we're going to do is we're going to pay attention to our chord tones and when they change, in each measure. And we're going to get under the hood of how do you, keep this motif going, but know where to switch, right? And that's what we're going to do essentially. I'm going to keep the same motif, but then when the chord changes, I'm going to explain, all right, well, maybe that's the flat third of the chord or the flat fifth or something, right? And just by kind of knowing where your arpeggios are, your scales, it's just going to be kind of another eye-opener on how to create, a cool melody. And like I said, this is based off one motif. So this is actually a little bit probably simpler melody-wise than some of the other ones we've done. Just in the fact that it's a lot more repetitive, but and like some of the other weeks I was kind of messing with the rhythm a little bit more and stuff, and there's some of that in here. But like I said, we're essentially going to take one sort of musical idea and change it around the chord progression to make a cool melody. So it's an exercise, but also a great device that makes a really strong statement, right? Okay, so before we even dive into the track here, let's talk about what is Bossa Nova, right? So our beat's gonna kind of be, right? It's that kind of groove, right? And so Bossa Nova, obviously Antonio Carlos Jobim, João Gilberto, the guitar player, Jobim was the composer, right? They're kind of considered the founders of Bossa Nova. Kind of started coming about in the late 50s in Brazil. Bossa Nova actually means new trend or new wave, right? And essentially what it is they took traditional Brazilian music and kind of did, it has a lot of the same grooves, it's kind of a soft samba, if you will, which is, obviously a samba is, definitely a style very prominent in Brazil. But Bossa Nova, it's a little bit more on the jazz side, right? So it kind of a little bit less emphasis on like the percussive nature, not like tons and tons of that. Simpler ensembles, but more jazz harmony, heavier harmonies. Obviously the lyrics were in Portuguese, the language of Brazil. And yeah, still keeping those traditional rhythms, but expanding upon the harmony and whatnot. Blue Bossa, like I said, which is in the style of, we're doing Mamba today. That's a great example. The Girl from Ipanema, One Note Samba. Those are all great, classic standards to check out if you are into this sort of style of jazz. So, with that being said, let's give this track a listen here, and then I'll play it, and then we will kind of dive right in. So 1 second, let me adjust my screens. Okay. So, real quick before we start, we're in the key of C minor or E flat, right? So it's 3 flats. We got a BPM of 112, so it's kind of just a you know, nothing too fast. Like I said, this should be a good one to get under our fingers at, you know, fairly simple melody, like I mentioned. All right, so I encourage you to follow along. You know, you have your tab here. So let's give this track a spin here. All right, here we go. Cool. All right, there is the Blue Mamba, like I said. Sexy, right? A couple of things too. Remember, the melody goes by twice, right? And the second time I add a few little things that we're going to talk about here, just to kind of spice it up. And then remember, which really goes with any style, but then we have the tag at the end, right? We'll do 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 do, right? And then it did it again. Do 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 do. Then do 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 do. Now here was another little trick I put in here, right? If everybody was paying attention, right? We didn't end on the C minor. We ended on an F 913, which we're going to get into, which is also another very cool trick, compositional device, to kind of give a cool spin on a minor tune instead of just ending on your standard minor chord, right? Okay, so I'm going to play it now. We'll go over the chords. I'll explain the cool trick at the ending, and we'll be off to the races here. All right. All right, here we go. One more time, I gotta catch up to the click here. Here we go. Repeat, a little bit spicier here. Right, switched it up there a little bit. Right here. First tag. Spiced it up there again, same idea. And I did mix that up a little bit, I apologize, but we'll get into it, you get the idea, right? And then we end on that C note, right, which is the root of the minor 7th chord, but the 5th of the F 913, and that's just like like I said, the cool compositional technique, which we will talk about here in a bit, but just makes it sound so much cooler, right? Okay, so let's talk about form first, right? This tune, it's not really A per se, right? You have your A section right here, so we have the C minor, 2 bars of that. We're gonna learn how to play it here in a second. F minor, right? D half diminished, or minor 7 flat 5, also known as, right? And then G7, right? C minor for 2 bars again. Now we switch it up. Now we kind of go right to the B section. E minor 7 flat, or sorry, E flat minor 7, which we're gonna learn new grip today. I did it like that, and then A flat 7, D flat major 7. Now keep in mind that's a 2-5-1 to D flat, right? Since we've been, since the beginning of this course, we've been talking about how there's so many 2-5-1s in jazz. So always be kind of looking at those relationships if you can. Right? And then D minor 7, G7, then tag, and then it starts over, right? So yeah, it's a little bit of a shorter tune, right? And Bossa Nova does that. Like sometimes, it's not always A-A-B-A. Swing for sure all the time. Not all the time. There's definitely tunes that, have different forms. So this is one of them, just to keep in mind, right? Okay, so now let's talk about the chords here. So, well, first off, let's back up one. Let's talk about rhythm, right? So you guys also have another thing in your supplemental material. And if you want to check that out, let's look at, it's just called Bossa Nova Rhythm. So here's 2 things, right? Now, with Bossa Nova, it's the emphasis is kind of on beat 2, right? Instead of 1. It's bump, bump, 3, 4, 1, 2, don't, don't, don't. So, if you're having trouble doing that, or getting the hang of it, a good way to do that is, a lot of times, we all have, I don't have my phone in here, but this day and age, right, go to the App Store, you can get a metronome on your phone for free, right? And then you can put the emphasis. So if you're having trouble doing that, always put the emphasis on beat 2, to sort of get into this vibe, if you will. But anyways, like in the material here, right, all we're going here, this is just a C minor chord to an F, a C minor 7 to an F minor 7, right? So the simplest, a simple way to do it, right? We have 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and that's how I have it sort of how I played it on the rhythm guitar in the track, which remember you also have, the one without the melody, so you're gonna hear that a lot better like that. But yeah, we have 1, 2, right? So all together, just C minor 7. So let's just get through with this, with the first chord here. Most of the minor chords we've been playing in these chord, these sessions have been, I've been doing minor 7 like that, right? Now with Bossa Nova, like I said, it's jazz, but it's got that sexy sort of, vibe, right? So I'm using this C minor 7, which to some of you guys, if you haven't really, if you're not hip to that, you're probably more hip to this. This is a more common chord in different styles of music, right? So what it is it's just I take my first finger and I bar 5, strings 1 through 5 on the 3rd fret, and then my 3rd finger on 5th fret 4th string, right? That's the 5th of the chord, the G note of the C minor 7th, and then you still have that open B flat, which is the minor 7, and then the minor 3rd, which is the E flat with your 2nd finger 4th fret. And then you play all the way down. Now the thing is, with the rhythm, right, and I use nails, not extremely, not totally necessary, but, you kind of want to get used to that. So let me see how I had it written out again. Yeah, so I have 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, it's thumb, which is P, and everything is marked correctly, you know, so you know what to do. Then you have I, M, and A, right? Index, middle, ring. I don't know why ring is called A, but it is. Right, so 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 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 1. That's our rhythm, right? And then I use this chord, so this is going to be our second chord. Right, and this is just like all the other minor sevenths from the root on the 6th string that we've been doing. Like we did G minor, I think last week, or the week before maybe. Right, remember we went like G minor to C7 with the G in the bass, or the 5th. So this is just second finger gets root, you kill the A string with your second finger, it just kind of mutes. And then with your third finger, you have that mini bar on strings 4, 3, and 2. Right, and it's the same thing. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and, right? So 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 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 that's a great way just to kind of get that rhythm going. Now another thing, just to expand, you know, some of this Bossa Nova stuff, like if you listen to like Stan Getz and Gilberto, right? That's a great album. You should check that out. Check out Stan Getz. It'll pop up. It'll probably be one of the first ones. But so say, you know, with Bossa Nova, a lot of times it's very stripped down, simple, you know, ensembles. So part of the other style, which I'm just going to touch upon here, but you can switch bass notes, right? So another thing you can do would be, right, root 5th, boom, 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 boom. That one, you know, you could go, right, and that's just your simple F minor 7, yeah. So that's another thing to experiment. Like I don't do it in the track or anything here, but just good thing to know, especially in smaller ensembles. Cool sound. Right, so just, you know, like a little something extra to think about there. Okay, so we learned the rhythm, we learned the first 2 chords. Let's keep moving with the chords here, right? So let's go back to the other chart. If I can find it. There we go. Right, okay, so we have C minor 7th, right? A more standard version. It might be new to some of y'all. Some of you guys might be going, thank God he, you know, we got an easy one today. And then we have F minor 7th, right? And then we have a D minor, or minor 7 flat 5, or a D half diminished to a G7, right? And then it goes back to a C minor 7. Now notice earlier I said 2, 5, 1, right? I don't know if we talked about this yet in this course, but this is also known as a minor 2, 5, 1, right? Because D minor 7 flat 5 is, if you look at C minor, it's the 2nd degree. D, right? C is 1, D is 2. To G, that's the 5th of C minor, right? So that's what you call a minor 2, 5, 1. And this is also one of the reasons why you learn, I think this tune, it's you know, one of the first ones a lot of people learn, because you kind of learn, okay, now we get to play in a minor key and do the minor 2, 5, 1 thing with the D minor 7 flat 5 to G7 to C minor 7. But then you also get the major one when it goes E minor 7th to A flat 7th to D flat major 7, right? Okay, so anyways, here's how I play this. And remember, just like with all these, I'm always gonna work smarter, not harder. So I'm kind of keeping all the chords in the same area, not jumping around. You should learn it as many ways as you can. That's totally a great thing to do. But for our intents and purposes, we're right here. So it's right, kind of a weird chord. If you've never really played it, right? So, right, it's a root, a flat third, a flat fifth, and a flat seven, right? So we have D, first finger, and everything's marked in the chart too. So if you guys missed this, you can always look back. But D is the root, right? Fifth fret, fifth string, first finger. And then I take my third, right? And that's the flat five or the A flat note, and that's sixth fret, fourth string, third finger. Right? And then just like except on the third string, you have your second finger, which is your minor seventh or the C note, right? So that's fifth fret, second finger, third string. And then your pinky, right, grabs the flat third of the chord or the F note in D minor 7 flat 5, right? Pinky, and that's sixth fret, second string, right? So there's our D minor 7 flat 5. Now G7, right? For, if everybody's been following here, this is just the old shell voicing that I use like in a bunch, I've used already several times in the other sessions that we've covered, right? So that's just root, flat 7 third, root, sixth string, first finger, third fret, and then you kill the A string with that finger, right? And then on the fourth string, you have the flat 7, right, or the F note, right, and that's second finger, fourth string, third fret, and then I just use my pinky. Or my third finger. You can use your pinky too. It's all choice, right? That's why Baskin Robbins has 31 flavors, right? Anyways, and then that's your third, right? So that's the B note on fourth string, or fourth fret, third string, right? So back to C minor, right? And then we're moving into the second half of the tune. So just to recap, we have working on that rhythm too. F minor 7, 2 bars apiece. Now 1 bar of D minor 7 flat 5, same rhythm. G7. All right. New grip alert. So now we have E flat minor 7 to A flat minor 7 to D flat major 7. Right? So how do we do that? So here is our C minor 7. You could do it like this. And we're going to look at it from an arpeggio perspective for the melody here in a second like that. But I chose this grip. And if you guys have been tuning into my jazz chord progression practice plan, this is another one of those grips I use. Great grip. I could have used this one as well. Like we've gone several weeks playing, but I just chose something different. Like I said, Bossa Nova, it's got its own little, this one's just a little sexier to me. Like I said, I think it's a sexy kind of music, so why not use the sexy chords, right? So, right, so there's your E flat minor 7, right? So second finger gets the root, fifth string, 6th fret, right? Your E flat note, and then your second finger, and then your first finger, right, gets the flat third, right, or the G flat note. And that's 4th fret, 4th string, first finger. And then your third finger gets the minor 7th, right? And that is third finger, 6th fret, third string. And then your pinky gets the minor third, right? And that's 7th fret, pinky, 7th fret, second string, right? Now what do? I go straight up to my A flat 7, just like we did with G flat or G7, up a half step, right? Remember to guide fingers, everybody. You see how that guy just slid back? And when you're reading charts, if you never played it, you'll be sending me an email here in a month or a year or whatever saying thank you, because that God finger, it just makes it easier and I could read. I know it doesn't have to change strings. I love you, right? So we have A flat 7. Okay, now we have D flat major 7, right? So this is coming from your A form shape of D flat, but we play it like this. So you have your root on the 4th fret of the 5th string, 1st finger, and then your 3rd finger gets the 5th on the 4th string, 6th fret with your 3rd finger, and then your 2nd finger gets the major 7. It's, you know, one of those kind of, you know, the pretty chords like that. That's your major 7, right? So that's the C natural right there, and that is 5th fret, 3rd string. And then your pinky gets the 3rd, right? And that's 6th fret, 2nd string. Right? Okay, now the transition goes back to D half diminished or D minor 7 flat 5. Check this out, right? All you have to do is move one finger up, and then you're set up for your chord there. Back to G7 to C minor. And that covers all the chords except for the fancy one. So let's just recap with what we learned, the chords, and then I'll show you the new chord, and then we'll do the melody. I'll explain my thought process there, and we'll call it a day. So we got C minor 7, F minor 7, D minor 7 flat 5, G7, C minor. Second half of the tune, E flat minor 7, A flat 7, just like G flat but up a half step, then D flat major 7. All right, slide that first finger up. We got D half diminished again, G7. Tune repeats, right? So there's all our chords. Now for the last chord, yeah, sometimes you can take, you can move to the 4th degree, right, and make it a dominant chord. And that's what's happening. So we're in the key of C minor, E flat, however you like to think of it. What is 4 in C minor, right? So really any minor key, you just want to know what 4 is. And that would be the F, right? So you can, the simplest way to do it is you could take your grip like this and just move it down and then like there, right? So I went, instead of going to C minor, I went to F, right? But instead I'm gonna put a couple of colors in it. So what I do is I take that grip that we've been learning, and then what you do is you take your pinky and you do a little mini bar on these 2 notes right here, right? And then what you have is you have the 13, which is the D, right, of the F chord, and then you have the 9, which is the G. Right? Big old cool jazzy chord, right? And that's what I chose to end on. And like I said, it just, you shouldn't do it on every tune or something, you know, but it's a cool way to end. You know, it just totally throws the listener, and then, you know, the melody stays the same, right? We have the C in the melody there, which is the root of the minor chord, or the 5th of the 4 chord, right? And it just, it's just a cool arrangement technique, right? Compositional technique, however you want to look at it. Okay, so there's our chords, right? Now, like in all these other lessons, excuse me, I'm gonna get a sip of water here. Right, let's move on to the arpeggios, right? Now, and so the arpeggios are important because here's my C minor, right? Here's my arpeggio, right? Great area, you know, to play. There's a lot of guitar in that area, right? So that's the arpeggio I'm thinking of for C minor. Really C minor 7th arpeggio, right? Now F minor, right, I chose to look at it from here. First position. So C minor we have third position. Right? First position. Right? And then D minor 7 flat 5. Right? I'm thinking really it's second position, but you have to stretch, and this is the toughest one by far. Right? And then you have a G7, second position, kind of like the one we've been doing in all the other live sessions. Back to C minor, right? So that's kind of how I'm looking at it, and our melody is, and we'll get into that in a second after we cover the arpeggios, but that's the way I'm seeing all the information there, right? The meat and potatoes, which are the arpeggio notes, which I'm going to build the melody around. So it's like I always say, it's always very good to, before you just learn a melody and go, oh, that's where it is. Like once you see those territories, like I talk about in every session, right? It makes things so much easier. I used to not see all that, and I would just learn the melody and be like, oh, and then you'd forget it. But once you can actually envision, because it's the melody's built all around that arpeggio, right? Okay, so here's the next thing. This might throw you for a loop. Like when we learned our first tune, which was Silky Doll, right? I took a D minor arpeggio from here, right, and built it around that. Now here's the thing. Our next chord, the second part of the tune, there's your E flat minor 7. I could have done that, but I didn't. And I think probably because I was already vibing on the minor 7 like that, and the motif coming with the melody, right? We switched the motif a little bit there. We'll get into that in a second. But I just chose to slide up 3 frets, or a minor third, and see the arpeggio from there, right? E flat minor 7. So, that's a choice I made, right? But like, I wanted to keep, like I said, that same motif that we'll get into here in a second. And that's just, that was my logic for it, right? Like this, it would have worked fine, but I'm a bigger fan. Like I said, there's more guitar in that area. So that's why I chose that. A flat 7, just like G7, up a half step. There's your arpeggio there. Right, and then we have D flat, major 7, right? And that's straight major right there. But that's where it's coming out of, right? And that covers our arpeggio, because then we go back to here, right? Back to C minor. Right? And then I didn't even worry about, like, there's no melody really for the end right there, right? If you really wanted to, take that extra step, which I encourage everybody, from F right there, what do? You can do it. You gotta use open strings though. You gotta use that open A to compensate, right? And, we're all at different levels and stuff in here, but remember, at the end of the day, you want to know that material in as many ways as you can, because this is a puzzle piece, right? And those are all pieces of the puzzle, and once you put together, you can see the whole thing, right? But yeah, that one, or you can go compensate by jumping up here to get the third degree. But yeah, like I said, for the melody, I didn't really pay too much attention with that, right? Okay, so our melody, we kind of have like this triplet thing at the beginning, and then just this big old long hole of, just one note. It's a simple, spacious melody. Remember, simple is always great, everyone. I can't encourage that enough. I mean, there are tons of great melodies, like Donnelly or something, that have a billion notes. But like I said, sexy, simple, right? The Bossa Nova kind of thing. So yeah, there's really not much to this, and honestly, I mean, it's we're learning this tune for learning purposes. We're learning this tune for learning purposes. Listen to me, but it works. It's good, right? And as we all know, sometimes it's the simplest songs or whatever that become huge, right? So that's okay, right? So now let's learn the melody. So here's my approach here. I'm gonna play like half of it and just to refresh, and then we'll get into it. Here we go, right? The triplet thing. Same thing. Same thing again. Right? Now I'm going to shift up. Arpeggio. E flat minor 7. A flat 7. Right? And then same thing. And there's the first version of it, right? Okay, so with that being said, the motif. What is the motif? Well, the motif it's the notes and it's the rhythm, right? But like I said, it's simple, but it works. So, and all the fingerings are correctly marked out here, right? So what I do, I use third, second, pinky. I see, I almost try to, I almost kind of try to stay true to the arpeggio right there, right? So, like I said, and we're doing a lot of sliding. There's no bending. It obviously is, jazz, and part of that is sliding, not bending, or you're going to sound like a blues player. But we have, right? Now, here's like the whole point of this lesson, right? Excuse me. Is what we're going to do is the pickup is the triplet, right? Do, 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 do. So what we need some sort of chord tone to land on, right? Because it's going to let the listener know, oh, I know exactly where he is. It lays for a solid foundation for a melody, right? So we have triplet, right? And that's the fifth, the root, third, 4, 5. Right? 4 being the F note, and C minor 7. So we got boom, 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 boom. I landed right on the third, right? Now here's what I did, right? And this is kind of the fun part of the exercise that we're, doing here. Our next chord is F minor 7. So what I want to do is I need some sort of chord tone in that, right? Now, consulting your arpeggios, and when I wrote this piece, right, I said, well, look, there's my flat third, right? My minor third, my A flat note. So why not jump there? And here's the thing that's cool about this, right, is we have 4, 1, pickup, same exact pickup, up a half step. It's cool, right? It's kind of, it's like, ooh, it's almost like builds a little bit of tension, right? But it also works because it's a chord tone, right? So there we go. 2, 3, 4, C minor, boom, 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 boom. A flat, the flat third of that chord, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to this chord, right? And this is the fun part about it. Like I said, you have to think. Now, are we doing math in a way? Yeah. But the more, like, one of the most valuable pieces of information I ever got, I remember when I learned stuff like this, and I was learning all these jazz exercises and stuff, and I asked my teacher, I said, well, I didn't get it, And he goes, well, you play this over tunes, man. And the thing is he goes, you know, when it's a minor chord, you take the same lick, and then instead of playing the major third, you play the minor. And like when he said that, just, you know, it was like that was my light bulb moment. And I went, oh, okay. So, and this is what we're doing. We're taking a simple motif here and we're manipulating it. And if you can learn to do that and have that skill, it's invaluable. It's great. So next chord, right? And this is the thing. This is why you want to know your arpeggios. So I already went 2, 3, 4. I'm on the 5th, the C minor. Then I'm gonna pick up same exact notes. All right, I'm on the flat 3rd of the F minor. Now what I need is I need a root, a flat 3rd, a flat 5, or flat 7 because it's a D half diminished chord or D minor 7 flat 5. So what did I do? I played the same thing. I went. What is that note? What is A flat? How is that related to D half diminished? It's the flat 5, everybody. Right? And then, oh, now I could go back one. And when I go to my G chord, well, what is that? That's the root of the G, right? And then you have this whole, like I said, this, right? The motif with the rhythm, everything is coming together and it makes it sort of memorable, right? By use of the motif, use of the half steps, it makes it interesting. You know, it doesn't sound necessarily like an exercise. We have that cool, you know, triplet feel in the beginning, right? So keep all that in mind. So all together, right, we have 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, boom, bum, boom, boom, F minor, 2, then boom, right, D minor 7 flat 5, boom, bum, boom, boom, G7, boom, bum, bum, boom, and then I switch there. We have boom, bum, bum, 1, 2, flat 3, and then I land back on the 1, right? Okay, now shifting gears, right here. Let's go over that one more time, and I'll play it with the track. Right, so. All right, same thing. Slide back a half step for the G7. Sorry, right? So there's the thought process on that. Now the next part is, I'm just gonna say, like I said earlier, I see it out of that shape. Right, and instead here we have 1, 2, flat 3, right? I didn't do that, I switched it up a little bit, but it still has the same rhythm, the same upward motion vibe, right? And then same thing. Dun, 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 right? And then boom, 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 A, for the A flat, right there, right? So right here, E flat minor 7, boom, 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 right? And there's the 5th of it, the B flat note of E flat minor 7, right? And then the next chord, A flat 7, boom, 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 same thing there, to the A flat, right? Which is the root of the chord. Or sorry, no, that's the 5th of the D flat, because it's a split, it's not 2 bars, it's 1 of each. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So that's really the 9 of the A flat, which works great. And then boom, 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 right? And then we're back to there. So boom, 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 boom. Right, that'd be like a chord melody version. And then we're back to the tag, right? This is the end of the melody. Boom, da, boom, same exact thing. Boom, ba, boom, 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 right? Wear it out. Let the listener know you mean business. That's my melody. I'm sticking to it, right? So here would be the whole thing right there. C minor, now F minor. Flat 3 there. Now D half diminished. Flat 5 there. G. G. Right? Moving on to the E flat minor 7. 2, 3, 4. Right? There we go. Back to the same thing. D flat. Or D to G, right? Same thing. Second go round, and we're gonna get a little bit more advanced here. Same exact thing right there, right? Okay. So why did I do that? Well, I did it because jazz is an improvisational language, right? I wanted to spice it up a little bit, right? Like I said, there's, Baskin Robbins has 31 flavors, right? Probably have more now. I don't remember. But point being, yeah, it's like I already stated it once through. It works great, right? It's simple. It's cool. We're kind of understanding, the listener, whether they know it or not, are going, oh, okay, cool. I know what this dude is saying, right? So the second time through is exactly the same, except when I go to that minor 2-5 at the end, right? I go, and all that is a G7 arpeggio, right? Just with a cool rhythm. And remember, like a couple lessons back, we talked about that, right? You can do so much with cool rhythm, and just one note or a couple of notes, or like we did it with the arpeggios, right? We did it on honeysuckle bows. So at the end of the second, when that minor 2-5 happens, we got dum, bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum, right? Dum, coming straight out of right second/third position. Right? Now we're back into the next part. Boom, bum, bum, bum. All right, I changed it up a little bit here too, and then I went boom, bum, 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 bee, bum. Right? Same thing. I'm just sort of letting the listener know I'm not a machine. Right? So, and then we have again. Sorry. Right? And then here comes the tag. What did I do there? I went right? What did I do there? Root third of the G7 chord. Then root again, third. Then I grab the C up high, right? It's just, like I said, it keeps people interested. So boom, bum, bum, boom, boom, bum, boom, and then one more time we have boom, bum, bum, boom, bum, 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 boom, bum, bum, bum. There's our kicker, right? That real super cool chord. Right, and I just land on the C. Boom, bum, bum, bum. Right? Here, I'll play it one more time in context all the way through so we can hear it. Second half. We're gonna spice it up a little bit. All right. Here comes that G7 run. All right, second half. Right. Right, then Makes sense. And I think I did that. Yeah. Sorry. Just making sure I'm not that crazy, everybody. Yeah, so there you have it, right? And a simple motif, a solid rhythm, spice it up here and there, right? You could come up with a whole lot. Sorry, just looking at my notes here. Yeah, like I said, it works, right? So, the main point, let's, talk about a takeaway here. I mean, when you're doing this, always be sure to start, you learn your chords first, learn your arpeggios, and then, like what I did, I saw what was next to, okay, well, I'm already there. Why, jump all the way down here, right? When I can go, and it's like, oh, it keeps moving up, right? That the line, then it moves down, right? Same here, boom, 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 boom. So there you have it. You can write a great melody. I mean, we're using a couple of rhythms, really. And then just being smart about where our notes are and what they are, right? And that, like I said, is definitely the main takeaway. So I know I've said it a couple times. I'm going to say it again. Don't just pick random notes. Think about where your arpeggios are and, where you could, where's your next option, right? Because so much of melody anyways is going to be part of the chord tones. It has to be. Right, unless it's like a straight run, but when the run ends, where does it go? Generally to a chord tone, right? Because it lets the listener know where you're at. It's the meat and potatoes. So yeah, check that out. I hope you enjoyed this. Next week we are gonna we're doing some fun stuff with rhythm changes, and we're gonna build some melodies with thirds and sevenths. So that's gonna be cool. I'm gonna kind of show you how to do that with some cool intervals. And onward and upward. So let's get ready for the questions here. And I will we'll do the questions here, and then I will catch you next week. All right, thanks. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the question part of this lesson. So I hope you enjoyed it. Got to kind of uncover some, Bossa Nova style, which is always fun. All right, let's move into the questions here. So we have Holland Boots. I've heard of other Latin rhythms like merengue, clave, and tango. Are these different from Bossa Nova? How? Great question. Yes, they're all similar in ways. A samba is generally right. Bossa Nova kind of comes from samba, which is the music of Brazil. Like I mentioned early in the lesson, it just incorporates heavier harmony, hence jazz harmony, right? A lot of vocal tunes in Portuguese. And it's just, a little bit more sophisticated than samba, right? So a clave, this is cool, just to learn something about a clave real quick. It has that in there. And if you listen to the track, I can't remember off the top of my head. It might even switch back and forth. But, you have your 3-2 and your 2-3 clave, right? So you have bop, 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 right? So if you had da 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 da, bop, 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 2, 3, right? It's like a longer divided triplet, bop, bop, right? And then you have the 2-3, which would be bop, 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 or hold on, I'm getting confused. Bop, 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 or hold on. Bop, 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 right? Bop, 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 bop. Right, so you can reverse it either way, or hold on, I'm still not. Bop, 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 right? So that's kind of a fun thing to know about clave and how you can, switch it around. I would say probably with guitar, I mean, you're not going to really be playing that, but the drummer, bass player, percussionist, that stuff can definitely happen. Yeah, and like, you know, sometimes the tango too, right? Sometimes like with a tango, you could play right on top. Like sometimes when I play tangos, you know, I'll also kind of variation, but also a tango can kind of be pushed a little bit, right? So you can go. So, you know, if this was a tango, boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Or, you know, you can treat it like boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. You know, so like I said, just different variations, if you will, but all fun stuff, and I totally recommend getting into Latin rhythms and stuff. It's super cool. Okay, we got Chris S. here. Why are chords called 9 and 13 when they have the second or third scale degree? Wouldn't it be easier to call them a major second chord or something? Another great question. Okay, so there definitely are some arguments out there, right? You got to remember the word nomenclature, right? Which is how to discuss, teach music, whatever. There's a lot of ways to say one thing, right? Kind of like the English language in a way, like I need dinner, food, snack, right? That it all means the same thing. It just has a slightly different twist. So sometimes I would say generally it follows this rule, but I guess I'm thinking a little bit more ahead than I should be, but like sometimes you will see chords labeled differently. Like the other day, for instance, somebody I know made a comment and said, well, do you call it a flat 7 chord or a 7 flat? Right? And you see it both ways. And like the discussion, there was like 40 comments on the thread about it, right? Because some people call it a flat 7, some people call it a 7 flat. So like if we were in the key of C, right? 7, a flat 7 is a B flat chord, or a 7 flat, B flat, right? So you kind of need to get used to seeing it both ways. Just like I said with food, dinner, snack, whatever. You know, they all sort of, you need to eat, right? I mean, obviously certain are for different parts of the day. But I think you understand where I'm going with that, right? So with chords generally, now all the notes don't have to be in there, but if you're dealing with like a 9 or a 13, right? So at the end of this tune, why wouldn't you call that an F, second 6? It sounds so weird even to say it, right? When it's a 9 or a 13, that's what you call an upper extension, right? So our chord tones are root, third, and fifth. That's bare bones. And then we have a seventh, whether it's a major seventh, a dominant seventh, a minor seventh, right? Which is a whole step away. Major step being a half step away. And then you'd have the double flat 7, which is really only used for diminished chords, right? Which is really the 6th degree, but you'd call it that to technically write it out where it made sense, because a diminished chord is a stack of minor thirds. But generally, those are your meat and potatoes, right? Those are the notes that make up the DNA of the chord. Anytime there's some sort of seventh involved, right? Then what you would call 2, 4, and 6, which are all the notes between that, right? You have 1, 3, 5, and 7. Then you have 2, 4, and 6. When the 7th degree, whether it's major, or really just a minor, or a flat 7, or a 7 flat, like I was saying, right? That is when you would call those upper extensions. So 2, 4, and 6 become 9, 11, and 13. And pretty much what it does is, like I said, it implies that there's some sort of 7th in the chord, right? So that's kind of a good way to look at it. Like if you have, a C9, there's probably there isn't a flat 7 in that chord. Just, and there could be different combinations of notes, but it's generally going to be a root, a third, a fifth, and a 9 or something, right? So that's kind of a good way to think about that. So I hope that answers that question. Good question, Chris. All right, well, it looks like that's all we have for today. Yeah, thanks for hanging around. I hope everybody's enjoying this course. Next week, we are going to do, it's going to be fun. We're going to kind of get more into a sort of bebop melody, which is also cool because that's sort of where, from the beginning, in the intro video in this course, I talk about a contrafact, right? And we're going to keep going back to that. What is a contrafact? Well, it's when you take a chord progression, right, from a tune and you write another melody over it. That became hugely popular with bebop. Hence, back home in Indiana, that tune becomes Donna Lee, right? So next week, like I said, we're going to kind of start diving into a little bit more bebop language type melodies, just the way that we create them. But we're generally mostly going to create them next week with just your thirds and your sevenths and some other chord tones too. But you'll see, especially during, we'll learn the progression and the bridge and everything, and then I'll show you some cool things we can do with that. So yeah, stay tuned for next week. Everybody be well out there, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks.